Yeah, I don't know that there's any way to talk about this without pissing somebody off, and that's why I should have just left it alone. Being the vile, depraved pieces of shit they are. People started wishing SA on my family and my children.
Welcome back, Nuggets. This mother clucker's got some thoughts. Let's ruffle some feathers and get into the video. And if you would like to support my baby chick of a channel, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hype this video if you can. And don't forget to go check out my other videos while you're here. Okay, my nuggets. So quite a few of you have been asking for a deep dive on Hecticana. Now you may have noticed, my diligent nuggets out there, I have actually changed Rachel's category to Rachel and Friends, problematic reaction channels in general. So this is where they're all going to live. Should anybody else show up, at the moment, it is mostly just Rachel and Hecticana. I don't think I'm going to go through and do a historical deep dive at this stage, but a lot of you have been asking what actually happened to Hecticana. Has he left? Is he coming back? And what caused all of this upset? Because while he was absolutely caught up in the whole Discord thing, and then he did that really awful video supporting Rachel, I think the largest amount of backlash that he's been experiencing is actually to do with what we're going to cover today. Now, just while we're on the topic here, I'm not sure how I missed it originally. When I did the actual screenshot pull from Charlie Gold's video, I managed to completely miss this one. And it's actually addressing that video that I covered in my last Discord video update. And he actually said, I'm going to make a video about this, and I'm going to say I'm disappointed that you offered to pay, but I'm also going to point out that I don't know what I would do if it were me, because honestly, not sure I could have resisted knowing how big this story would be. So I'm not going to be mean or anything. And this is him letting Rachel know what his intent is going to be. If you did watch the summation video on the 4 that were involved, if you haven't, I do recommend going and watching it. I actually raised that in his video regarding Rachel, he was really coming off as disingenuous and talking out of both sides of his mouth. And this screenshot explains why, but what it doesn't explain is why I'm also detecting similar behavior in the coming videos, which makes me feel like this is just who he is, or at least who he's portraying as a disingenuous person. Rachel replied, haha. Hecticana said, and yes, please do. I don't know what that was to. And Jawbone responded, how could you? So I apologize for missing this one, my nuggets. I don't know how it managed to escape my research, but it did. Anyway, I just wanted to pop that in before we got started here. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into this video. So this video is going to be covering Hecticana's response to the whole DoorDash girl walking in on men and undress kind of situation. I just want to outline what this is and what it isn't going to be as a video. I am interested in what got Hecticana into this hot water. So this video is not going to be focusing on the crime that happened itself, but rather highlighting his potential inappropriateness or just poor judgment, generally speaking. I won't be giving my opinion on this case. I am nowhere near well researched enough on both sides to be able to give my usual take on it, and it's not really what this channel is about. So I want the focus to be on Hecticana himself. I will give a little bit of context because potentially not everybody has heard of this case. I do ask that if you do feel the need to weigh in the opinions on your actual opinions of this case, please keep in mind that this is a very divisive case, and I would very much appreciate everybody to do so, if they feel they need to keep it respectful towards everybody else in the comment section. And I know you will, because the community as a whole is really, really good at this kind of thing, but I just wanted to set the expectations before we get in there. And something that I just want to say before we start that you need to know about me, because of the way Hecticana is going to handle his videos, by its nature is going to make me argue the alternate options, perspectives, or the opposite even. This in no way, if you think it makes me lean, to the left or to the right, it absolutely does not. It's just because he is already representing that perspective and that argument. I will be representing everything else. What you need to know about me is I am an egalitarian through and through, almost to a fault. And this is not going to be a political commentary in any space which way. It's a little bit like in that Rachel video, how I was upset because she was saying things that was making me have to argue Emily's side, and I don't necessarily like to argue Emily's side in a little bit of a different tone. I will just be balancing out, very much needed balancing out of his argument. So any assumptions that you may have about any stance that I have, other than what I've just directly said, I guarantee you is going to be incorrect. It's just the circumstance that we've been dealt in these videos. And if it were just me covering this case, I would be covering all of it, including Hecticana's side. So hope that makes sense. Hope everything is clear. But if you have questions, by all means, put them in the comments. One more thing about this video is prior to the whole Discord thing and now this, Hecticana is not somebody that I watched. I think I saw a clip of him somewhere, like, I don't know, in somebody else's stream, maybe Geordie's. I don't remember where I saw him. And you know how you just kind of get an immediate feeling whether you're going to mesh well or not with a channel. And look, nothing against him. It's just I had determined relatively quickly that he probably wasn't my style. Now that I have watched more videos of his, I just want to forefront that I struggle a lot with the sorts of people that Hecticana is at least presenting himself to be, because in all honesty, none of us know him in real life. We don't know. This could be an act. I don't know if he's sincere in the opinions that he puts across, but I'm going to take at face value what he gives us on screen. And he is coming off as the kind of person that feels so long as he is the loudest person in the room, he is the smartest and rightest person in the room. And so this is a bias that I know that I'm bringing to the table, where I don't mesh well with these sorts of people, just because there's usually no objective thought with it. There's no rationalizing with it. There's no even, getting them to see that they're wrong necessarily. And I think the videos that I'm going to go through today are going to highlight exactly that. Now, I do stress my nuggets. I could be way off. This is just the vibe that I'm getting based on what he's putting on the internet. And in all honesty, it usually goes both ways. People like this generally don't like me either. So, I'll give as good as I take. It's fine. So there are 3 videos in question. The first one we're going to go over in its entirety. It is a deleted video now. Hecticana deleted it from his channel, but the absolute amazing Girl World uploads, I'll link them again below, captured it and re-uploaded it. We're going to look in depth at this video because this is the one that got him in hot water. Then there were 2 more after, which we are going to cover because they're very telling behaviorally, but they are going to be heavily edited. The full versions are still on his channel if you want to see them and haven't. I took out most of the case-related stuff and just took the parts that were applicable to his behavior. Okay, so with all of that in mind, if you're a Hecticana fan, this may not sit super well with you, but I'm going to bring as objective a view as I possibly can, but bearing in mind, I am just a human, despite what you may see on the screen right now, and the rumors you may have heard. I am subject to my own natural biases and experiences, and everything that I see is with my own filter over it, because that's all I know. And that's all we all know, is just our own perspective and filter on things. So with that in mind, I'm not saying that I am objectively right in this situation, but this is what I see. And you all wanted me to make this video, so clearly you want to hear what I have to say about it too.
Hello, my friends. So there's some drama happening over on TikTok that I thought was funny and stupid and worth talking about.
Okay, so straight off the bat here, one sentence in, and it's already a horrendous start to approaching what is essentially true crime, right? This is a true crime case, but I think what Hecticana is doing is taking his usual style that he would do where he's mocking the girls and putting them down and all that kind of thing, and he's taken that same levity, whether you agree with it being there or not, he's taken the same levity and applied it directly to a true crime case without any understanding at all that this sort of thing is only appropriate in girl world. And even then, I'm sure that there's people within girl world that don't even think it's appropriate there. So straight off, you can hear he's laughing as he's talking. The man is practically giddy all the way through this video. And I'll get into it a little bit more as we go, but just listen to the way he's talking. This is a true crime case. This is an active case, and there are convictions being sought. So bear that in mind as we go on.
So this girl here is being held accountable for some choices that she made, and she just doesn't get it. She does not understand why she's facing consequences for her actions, and she is not happy. So if you'd like to like and subscribe, that would literally be hectic. I'm not gonna lie.
So these words, let them ring in your little ear holes, my nuggets, because I'm actually going to say exactly the same thing about him by the end of this video. It's kind of stunning how little insight he has into what is about to unfold.
This is Livy, and she was a DoorDash driver, and she had a delivery to make to a guy, and the instructions said leave it outside the front door. And she claims that when she gets there, the front door is wide open, and there's a guy sleeping on the couch, not responding, not moving, but exposed, we'll say, from the waist down. And the video that she posted of that guy inside his house actually got removed from her account, and she received a strike for it. So I'm not going to show it in this video just to be safe, but I will post a link in the description for the one that I saw.
So the things that I really want you to pay attention to is see if you can identify how he's speaking about the girl herself, Livy, and how he speaks about the man. Note the contrast because it's going to become very important in the next couple of videos, but just kind of absorb the ambience, if you will. We're kind of setting up the stage at the moment.
But basically what it is it shows his address, it shows the inside of his house, and it shows this guy sleeping on the couch inside his house. And it was visible from the front door at a certain angle. And while I think it's a little weird that her first thought was to whip out her phone and start recording, I can sort of understand being not traumatized, but sort of taken aback. I can understand wanting some evidence because I would probably report it to DoorDash and maybe even the police. But, of course, she decides to post it on the internet. And then she faces consequences.
So we are only a couple of minutes into this at this point, and already we've got that talking out of both sides of his mouth that I highlighted in his Rachel video that he did. He'll say, now I think it's kind of weird that the first thing you would do is pull out your phone and start recording, but I could also understand that you might want to record it. I don't think he has well thought out this video before actually recording it. The impression that I get is he's seen this TikTok video or somebody sent it to him or whatever the case may be, and then he's taken his immediate reaction without any additional thought into what the situation might be, into what any of the factors might be. He's clearly thought it's ridiculous and that there is this girl being ridiculous and uploading something to TikTok. I think the general message of what Hecticana is going to say in this video is not necessarily the problem. Like, if you were to whittle it down to the base message, it's like this girl posted something on TikTok that she shouldn't have. It was a violation of privacy, and it was against TikTok's policies because they have some pretty strict things around nudity. Like, that part of his message, I don't actually think was the problem. I think what is the problem is how he has approached it, the tone, and some of the words that he says. Now, this video does gradually get worse as we move through it, as he gets more confidence and as he gets more bold.
So DoorDash just deactivated me 2 days after I reported my sexual assault. Hey guys, I just lost my job, and they won't tell me why. They're supposed to send an email immediately after deactivation providing you the reason why and a link to appeal, and they didn't. So I contacted support, and they made me sit on the phone with them for 50 minutes just to tell me that they can't tell me the reason why, and I have to just go ahead and appeal without knowing why.
So with this, if this had have been a video that I was reacting to, I've actually covered this in some of my Eugenia videos where I went through TikTok policies very deeply. You know how I like to do my nuggets, and they really have a very hard line when it comes to privacy of other people and also nudity. So regardless of, like, at the moment, what we're doing is taking how she feels and how she was affected out of the equation. And if we're just looking at policies on a TikTok level, it's no wonder why they did it. And you heard me in my Amber Lynn videos. It's like, if you're on a platform, it's your job to know their policies. And without a doubt, she violated TikTok terms of service when she did that.
So yeah, she calls it essay. And to me, that just screams victim mentality. And I want to make this very clear, and I'm going to say this a few times throughout the video, but what he did was inappropriate. Even though his couch wasn't right in front of the door, it was visible from the front door. Like, you can look in and pretty easily see the couch. He knew a delivery driver was coming. So yeah, it was not a good idea for him to do that. And yeah, I think he should have been reported. But even if he was standing in front of the door, jiggling and saying, "Hey, baby, you like what you see," and she filmed it, she would still have been fired for posting it to the internet. That is the problem.
So this is where Hecticana really starts to cluck up, in my opinion. Now, he is clearly a mature man of some manner of privilege living in America. You know, there's a certain amount of privilege that will come with living in a place like that. And when approaching these kind of situations, I think that it's so critical to at least attempt to see other people's perspectives beyond your own. Hecticana is clearly approaching this as a privileged white male applying his filter exclusively to this girl. Now, and this is why I say this is irrelevant whether she was in the right or the wrong here. I just want to propose additional things and propose potentially why people got so upset about this. So this is not necessarily indicative of my personal opinion regarding this case, right? Okay, we've got that out there. So one thing that we do know is that when it comes to sexual predators, it's actually semi-common that people will start with flashing or, manners of exposure of unwitting people. I don't know that that's what this guy was doing. It may have been like a medical episode or like an accident. I don't know. I don't know. That's why I'm saying it's not the point here. But from this girl's perspective, something that Hecticana would have done well to think about is what it's like to be a young girl in a situation where it's clearly at night and she's clearly alone. And yes, this is her job. This is, what she's being paid to do. So there might be some element of familiarity with it. But it's a horrible thing, and it's hard to explain to people who haven't experienced it. And my husband actually is a really big guy. Like, he's very tall, very broad. And he often asks me, what would this be like for a female? What would this be like? Because he knows what it's like to be walking down the street and have a girl keep looking back at him. He even though he would never put anybody in that kind of danger, but he knows what it's like to be seen in that way. And something that I'm imagining this girl, and it's nighttime and she's alone, there is immediately potentially a little bit of tension about at least an awareness of needing to keep herself safe. So if Hecticana was the DoorDash person and approached the door, I'm sure that he wouldn't feel as threatened or necessarily even threatened at all compared to that of a young, alone female doing the same thing, seeing the same thing. So whether or not she's right to call this SA, there is a factor of perspective that needs to be overlaid here. And then even if you just, that's just the best case scenario, right? Because that's clearly what is going on. But what if this person is also sensitized because of past trauma? What if she has experienced SA or worse in her history? Does that change the playing field? Does that change how she perceives this situation? And once again, I'm not saying that any of this is the way it is. It's just to approach a topic as heavy as this, it's worth considering all of the factors. Just as for the man involved, considering the factors of, was it an accident? Was it a medical emergency? Was it he has some sort of medical condition that makes him forget that he's done things? Was it that it wasn't even him that called in the DoorDash? Was there somebody else living there? That, there's so many things to factor, but the issue is here, Hecticana has not bothered to think of anything outside of his own perspective.
So my chances of getting my account back, they have my money in that account. I was working. I was literally working, and they deactivated me. This is related. They just punished me for posting about my sexual assault while DoorDashing. They just fired me.
So think about what she's trying to do there, right? She's trying to make it seem like some conspiracy that because she posted about an SA while she was DoorDashing, they want to cover it up and they don't want her story to be told. Or you filmed the guy inside his house. How do you not understand that that's a problem? And it would have been totally fine to report that stuff, but you just don't post it.
I do agree that the posting was problematic for sure. It is against terms of service, as we've discussed. It's a violation of privacy. I'm guessing it's probably even against terms and conditions when you're working for DoorDash. They, as a major company dealing with this sort of thing, would have policies in place and procedures in place where reporting can absolutely be done, and that is problematic. But what I'm feeling from Hecticana is that he's labeled this girl as a stupid little girl throwing around words that she doesn't understand, and he's not willing to frame it in any other way. It's like there's no other possibilities in this man's mind than she is just some ignorant twit. And that's probably the biggest criticism that I'm going to bring for Hecticana, is just that lack of being able to see outside of himself into any other scenario at all.
And the police are doing nothing. I lost my job, and that was my only way to make money to pay my bills.
So this is why she is going viral. It's her reaction and the fact that she doesn't understand what she did wrong, or she just thinks she didn't do anything wrong. She doesn't understand why she's being held accountable, which again is 100% because she posted the video to TikTok. That is it. There is no other reason. It's not because she got SA'd, which she didn't.
Who is Hecticana to sit there in his smug little space that he's sitting there in as some random on the internet to say that this girl was not essayed. Who is he to say that? And the thing is, okay, she's clearly made some errors. I think both parties made some errors to varying degrees, potentially in this situation, right? And the uploading, without a doubt, that's problematic. And honestly, the way she's handling it, I kind of am coming at this of two minds. I'm either seeing someone that's kind of doing something for clout on the internet, which is absolutely a possibility these days, like who knows, but potentially also somebody who is reacting to this situation who has past undealt with trauma. Sometimes overreactions to things or inappropriate reactions to things can be the result of something else going on in the mind at that time. I could see a world where somebody with past undealt with trauma has approached this, seen what she's seen, and then it's like the brain goes into this fight or flight mode, and then bad decisions start getting made. Not as an excuse for what she did, but I could see it, right? There is a world where that could be a factor. But for this man to sit there and say, huh, which she wasn't. So just that is just inappropriate on so many levels that I'm not even, do you know what drives me mad about this? I'm not even a quote unquote woke, feminist of I'm not extremely to one side, but I like to sit in the middle, as you know. But to have this coming at me makes me feel like I have to argue the far other side. Hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say here, my nuggets, but it's inappropriate for him to make a decision on how she has interpreted this situation.
And it's not because she reported it to DoorDash and it might make DoorDash look bad or something. It is because she violated this guy's privacy. That's it. And then a couple of days later, she doubles down and continues the victim mentality.
And you can see this labeling that he's already made up in his mind. There is no changing that mindset. She is a victim. She is a silly little girl. She is using words that she shouldn't, and it's all for attention. That's the thing that he's made up in his mind. And I want you to really take note of how resolute he is on this stance in this video, because it does become very important.
3 days ago, October 12th, 2025, I was a victim of SA by a DoorDash customer while I was doing my job as a DoorDash driver. Excuse me if you've already seen this. This is my third time posting this because TikTok keeps silencing me and taking my videos down and giving me strikes.
Silencing her. And notice she's still saying that she was SA'd because she looked inside this guy's house and filmed him. She was SA'd. And now she's trying to say that not only DoorDash, but also TikTok are trying to silence her. Why? Why would they both be in cahoots to try to silence you? I can understand the logic of DoorDash trying to silence her, even though that's not what's happening. But then why would TikTok be like, hey, DoorDash, I got you? They don't care. It's because it violated his privacy.
So if you see what I mean, like, it's not necessarily the base message that he's trying to put across that is problematic here. But it's interesting to see that parallel, because what he's accusing her of is actually exactly what he's doing. It's like, yeah, it's not the topics that's the issue. It's how you're dealing with it that is the issue. And they're both doing exactly the same thing in that way.
And then the caption on her video says, I'm being punished as a victim by all sectors involved right now. The police, DoorDash, and TikTok are all punishing me, a victim. I mean, the delusion is wild. If she had maybe taken a picture, reported it to DoorDash, and maybe even the police, and then got on TikTok and told the story, and just said, you guys, I just did this DoorDash, and you wouldn't believe what happened, then it really wouldn't have been a big deal. It probably wouldn't have gone viral, but she would have had her job, and people might have actually seen her as somewhat of a victim. She wouldn't have to start saying she got SA'd, but even as of today, it is clear that she can't wrap her head around the idea that she did anything wrong.
You know, here's the thing. I have a very firm stance that I really think that anybody that makes up a story about being SA'd or worse to get the other person in trouble, whatever punishment that person would have faced if they had committed those crimes, the accuser should have to face similar weighted punishment, but they don't, because we see false SA allegations against men and then they get cleared, but the stigma still follows those men. And that is really, really horrendous. It is life ruining in some cases because people, potentially rightly so in a lot of cases, think where there's smoke, there's fire. So they continue to think those kinds of things. And it's so easy for somebody to falsely accuse and just say words to get somebody else into trouble like that. If that's the case here, this girl should be absolutely riddled with shame for that. But we don't know, and definitely not at this point, we didn't know what the scenario was. So, because we don't know what the scenario is, the word delusional, what if the situation, and Hecticana doesn't clucking know, but what if the situation is that this girl has been seriously traumatized and through something that is going to rock her world for a while she processes it. And then there's this guy coming online and calling her delusional. Now, it's a tricky line, and that's why I bring up the false allegations, because I think what it boils down to, at least from my perspective, is I would rather believe a victim and be wrong than to disbelieve them and be wrong. I think that there's far more harm that can come of not believing somebody and then turning around and being incorrect about that than there is in the opposite. And I feel like by Hecticana sitting there and saying this, so many SA victims will be looking at him saying this and hearing their own story invalidated. And I think that it's so important that sometimes when we're public figures on the internet or when we're talking about things, we're not just talking about the person on the screen. And although it's not always appropriate for everybody to apply their own lives to what's being talked about, when it comes to something as traumatic as SA, I think it's a really natural response. I do. I really hope that him doing this didn't cause any damage to anybody listening.
She actually did an update video just a few hours ago, and let's see what she has to say.
Hi guys, it's the DoorDash girl. I'm also Olivia, but I prefer to go by Liv or Livy Henderson for anybody who's wondering. And for anybody who's just now hearing about this, what happened is October 12th, 2025, I was doing my job as a DoorDash driver, and my customer requested that their order be left at their front door. And when I arrived at their house, their front door was wide open, and they were within eyesight of the front door, laying on the couch, indecently exposed to me.
And I have really been debating whether or not I want to show the original video. There are some versions of it that have been uploaded on other channels and stuff, and I'll put a link in the description to one where I saw it. And there's nothing really inappropriate, but it is the inside of a guy's house, and I don't want to show it on my channel. I mean, if TikTok is taking it down, I don't want mine to get taken down because of it. But if you want to see it, there are other ways to see it. But in that video, you can see that she is not standing directly in front of the door when she takes the video. She is over to the side, like all the way to the side of the door, and she's having to film at an angle across the living room. The couch is over on the wall to the side of the door. But I mean, it was visible enough from the front door that it's messed up that he would lay there exposed like that. Now, I understand when you walk up to a door, even if your delivery instructions say leave the food outside, it's natural when a door's wide open, because that's unusual, to like peek in and be like, hello. So I don't blame her for peeking in there, but to then call it SA is just a stretch.
So even that kind of small example shows that he's really not thinking this past his own perspective. Like, so his reaction would be to see an open door and to peek in. I don't know about you, but my first reaction would be, oh, is everything okay? Because I got a different set of instructions. Did they want me to give it to them, or is there something going on? Like I say, a medical emergency probably would have been my first thought if I had have just looked up and seen somebody lying on the couch, especially when they know that they're expecting a DoorDash. So, like, what if that situation was that he had had a heart attack or stroke or something, or whatever? And I just, it shows his mentality around this. And I think this kind of single-mindedness is one thing in girl world. I feel like Hecticana is putting me at a very far end of the spectrum feminist, and I'm not super comfortable with that, my nuggets. But I feel like he's coming at from such a misogynistic angle that it's causing an equal and opposite reaction in me. So don't place me on any spectrum, please. Like, to be sitting there and not even be willing to consider that in this girl's mind it could have been SA is extraordinarily tone deaf. And I think that this is what caused the backlash, right? Because he gets into it, but people were apparently threatening his kids and his family and things like that. And I think it's just this, it's such an emotionally charged topic that people can't help but want to defend themselves or defend loved ones that they know have gone through it. And he was so out of his depth with this kind of topic. Like, to go from this sort of thing in girl world where, like, it seems like men in the space are able to say much more extreme and much more nasty things than what, say, the females in the space would be seen as acceptable. And right or wrong, it's just an observation that I've made. But to then apply it to a crime case, an active crime case, is just, it's such a misstep. And I don't think he gets it. I can prove that he doesn't get it, actually.
And I reported this to DoorDash, and I want to clarify, I did report this to the police the very next morning on October 13th. And DoorDash did ban the customer. And then a day and a half later, DoorDash banned me as well. And this was DoorDash's response to me.
So, yeah, like I said, I think rightfully the customer got banned, at least while they do the investigation. And the reason she mentioned reporting it was because there were a lot of people that were like, hey, instead of recording the guy and posting it online, maybe just report it. And we will talk about that in just a second. But for now, let's go over the response from DoorDash. So this explains pretty clearly what the problem was and what she did wrong, and what she seems to still be failing to understand that she did wrong. Okay, so DoorDash says, regarding the video from a dasher circulating today, we take reports of this nature with the utmost seriousness. We want to be absolutely clear, this dasher was not deactivated for reporting SA. If a dasher ever experiences something that makes them feel unsafe or uncomfortable, we urge them to please contact our support team immediately so we can help, as their safety and well-being matter deeply to us. It's a lot of HR speak, but it says, at the same time, publicly sharing videos taken inside a customer's home, especially when personal information is involved, i.e. their address, and she kept saying his first name, raises privacy concerns and is a clear violation of our policies. In order to protect everyone's safety and privacy, we've deactivated both the dashers and the customers' accounts and are working directly with law enforcement for additional guidance. So regardless of what happened, as far as like where the couch was and how much of him was exposed and all the details, right? Whether or not she was SA'd, none of that has anything to do with why she was fired. The only reason she was fired is because she posted the video on the internet. So what she should have done was maybe take a picture just so that she could report it to DoorDash, because again, it is inappropriate for sure, and then get on TikTok and talk about it. right? Tell the story, and most of the internet would have been on her side.
He is right, in my opinion, there. But the tone of chastising this girl, and this even creates the sensation in me that I do wonder that I think he has daughters. I'm not 100% sure on that, my nuggets. He references kids. I know that some viewers have mentioned daughters, so I think there might be. But it does make me wonder how he would feel if this is something that had happened to his daughters or daughter, whatever. I feel like this tone would have been a little bit more understandable if the court case had gone through, all of the discovery was out there, the police had gotten everything, and we were looking at public court documents. I feel like then if it was proven that this guy had had like a medical episode or whatever, and this is how she handled it, that would be the correct tone then. But because everything, especially when this video came out, everything was so up in the air. Yeah, she absolutely did the wrong thing by recording it and posting it on TikTok. It's just the ignorance and unwillingness to accept any other potential for this situation.
But as it stands, as soon as she posted that video, everybody was like, bro, you are filming this guy sleeping in his house. What are you thinking? Why are you doing this? So the focus was not on what the guy was doing. It was on what she was doing. And she still doesn't understand, that she wasn't SA'd.
We just really need to drive that one home, don't we? I've said what I need to about this, but he said it so many times, and always with that not SA'd, as if this stupid little girl knows nothing. Yeah.
But also, she doesn't understand that the posting of the video on the internet was the entire problem. Either that or she just has such a victim mentality that she just cannot admit fault.
We actually haven't seen her necessarily having a victim mentality. This is something that he's labeled her through his own filter without considering any other circumstances involved. From his perspective, she has a victim mentality. But there are other, as I've gone through, other perspectives where actually that wouldn't have looked like a victim mentality.
And that's another thing she could do, right? At this point, all she has to do is say, listen, regardless of what else happened, I still believe I was SA'd or whatever. She could say whatever she wants. But
Oh, it's so dismissive and so minimizing. Just because, in this situation, I would want to approach it because we don't know everything, let's consider all of it. And just on the off chance that there was past trauma, and I don't know if there was or not, but on the off chance that there was past trauma, on the off chance that there was active PTSD, on the off chance that this girl was just trying to do the best that she could in this life, and then potentially seeing something that caused like a full-on trigger of an emotional response, to have this man sitting here minimizing it like that. And like I say, this is not necessarily even about this girl. He's sitting there effectively minimizing anybody's perspective on SA. And I'd be interested to know, my nuggets, if you're willing to share. Have you ever witnessed somebody going through this and not being believed? Do you know what that can do to somebody? If you're willing to share your story, it is enough to crumble somebody's world to have gone through something and then have some dude on the internet or a police officer or a doctor or somebody in their life saying that didn't happen like that, or you're overreacting, or you've got a victim mentality. It's so brutal. The language is brutal.
But then say, I shouldn't have posted his private information and private residence on the internet. That's my bad. At least she would get some points for that, but she doesn't want to do that either. So this is the second response from DoorDash, and it basically is saying the exact same thing. Like right here, it says, however, posting a video of a customer in their home and disclosing their personal details publicly is a clear violation of our policies. So that's it.
And absolutely. And I hope that it's really clear to everybody listening. I'm trying to be as clear as possible because this is a little bit different to if I was reacting directly to the crime itself, where I would be arguing all sides of it. But because he is automatically arguing one side very thoroughly, it is making me argue the opposite or alternatives, right? So it's not that I don't agree with some of his takes. I don't agree with the delivery of his takes. But it is possible as well that although I do agree some manner of ownership from her would have been good to see, because there were absolutely things that she did wrong in this situation, but you know, she's very young, and without knowing all of the context around it, it's possible that she's not in a mental state to be able to take that kind of accountability right now. Like, we're talking about this was all still very fresh at this point. Within a couple of days, she might be still processing it. She might be still getting around to the details. We don't know, is my point.
There have been a lot of people saying things like, I entered the customer's home or I opened the customer's door, but I can assure you that I did not do either of those things, and I have obtained irrefutable proof that the door was already wide open when I arrived to the customer's house. But due to its importance, I cannot post that proof at this time. And to all those that...
And that's kind of a weird way to put it, right? I have irrefutable proof, but due to its importance, I can't post it. And I can understand that you've already had videos of the guy's house taken down, so I can understand not wanting to post more of them. But while opening the door more or going into the house would obviously be worse for her, none of that really matters because, again, the problem was posting it. Regardless of what happened when you got to the house, it's what happened when you got home with the video that was the problem. But she wants to make it about her being the victim, because I have a feeling that's just kind of what she does in every situation in her life. Her first reaction and her natural reaction was to play the victim and cry essay immediately.
Well, that's an assumption that you've labeled her yourself as doing, so I suppose you would have a feeling that that's what she does in every aspect of her life, because people could not possibly be as, you know, nuanced or complicated or anything as those in your life. I just, sassy mother clucker. I will dial it back a bit, my nuggets. I just, this is why I don't mesh well with these sorts of people. I apologize. I wish he would stop laughing as he's delivering that. But regarding the importance of it, the way I actually kind of interpreted that is sometimes when an active investigation is happening, the police actually ask you to not show things and like to keep things secret. So when she said importance, or because of how important it was, that's actually where my mind went, that it's evidence, and that's what she was trying to say. But I don't know.
You know, the problem in society, I guess, we all live in a society.
But I simply say this, we live in a society.
So when I saw this, I had a little bit of a cringe moment, my nuggets. Do you know who this is? Unfortunately, Australia has to claim him. He is our former Prime Minister. He is a man called Scott Morrison. Now, for those who are not in the know, and I would love to know if Hecticana knows who this is, because if this is a man that Hecticana idolizes, is inspired by, appreciates, respects in any way, it's almost all I need to know about Hecticana. Now, I don't know that he does know who this is. It might have just been a cute little quirky clip that he's chucked in his video. I don't know, but here's some context for you, my nuggets. This Prime Minister cut funding to our fire departments. The entire country caught on fire and was one of our absolute worst years for fire in recorded history. It was devastating. And although a lot of parts of particularly the eastern side of Australia were affected, New South Wales in particular were affected the worst. Now, while this was happening, Sir, that is currently on the screen, decided to go to Hawaii for a holiday with his family. And his country's literally burning at the time, and he clucks off to Hawaii. When he came back, he did some interviews on the ground, and I'll show some clips, but if if they get cut out, you'll know it's because they got copyright claimed. So I'm not sure if I can use them, but I'll just give you this little introduction. Everybody was understandably very upset with this man at the time for cutting funding, because all of this could have been avoided with decent funding to the fire departments. And he was on site doing interviews and nobody wanted to shake his hand. So his tact was to grab the person's hand and actively force them to shake his hand. I'm not joking. He did it multiple times. It's on camera. And just considering what we're talking about, where we have one white privileged male talking about the feelings and perceptions of body autonomy of a girl, and then he's using a clip of a man who also didn't respect the body autonomy of the people he was interviewing. It's an ironic parallel. I don't know if it was intentional, but it's there. And let's just continue. I'll leave this clip here. If you see it, good. If you don't, well, it was copyright struck.
Good. How are you?
I'm only shaking your hand if you give more funding to our RFS.
There are so many people who are constantly in this state of looking for moments to post, right? So when something happens to them or they experience something unusual, they don't use any common sense. Their mind just immediately switches to, I need to share this mode.
So when something happens to them and they experience something unusual, they don't use any common sense. Their mind immediately switches to, I need to share this. Sir, how is this any different? I'm sorry, it just, oh, the irony, my nuggets. I cannot.
Right? I need to capture this and share it. Not thinking of the consequences, not thinking of anybody else's privacy or feelings or anything else. It's just, this is something that I need to post so people can see it, and maybe I'll go viral, or maybe they just are addicted to sharing their ideas. They just think everybody wants to see them. So many people like this are potentially ruining their lives simply because they've lost any kind of common sense or just the ability to rationalize or to think through what they're doing.
Irony aside of this situation, because hello pot, I am kettle, and we both appear to be black, I do agree that we are living in interesting social media times, and unfortunately, people that misuse this kind of thing, there's been a few, like I'm thinking about the woman that fell in love with her therapist and then left all of these horrible stories about the therapist. And also there was an au pair who said some really weird things about her host family, and then it turned out they were completely normal. It's just like, yeah, there are people misusing the internet to try and get clout or attention or just whatever. And unfortunately, it does make it difficult to decipher, are these people just attention seeking, or are these people really struggling with their inner thoughts and experiences? And I don't know, I can't get a read on this girl, which one she is, because parts of it look attention seeking, but parts of it really look like there might be a little bit of a disconnect with reality and what's going on, and that she's really struggling to process that. So I don't know, but Hecticana's made up his mind, right?
If she had taken just a second to think, hey, this is the inside of some person's house, maybe posting this on the internet isn't the best idea, especially since he's exposed. Now, the story is probably worth sharing because that's weird that he would do that. But because of the brain rot that people like this have, influencers and terminally online people, it never crossed her mind that the story could end up being about her making a bad choice. In her mind, this was all going to be about how she was victimized, and That's exactly what she thought, is that she could claim SA, because in the original video, there's a caption, and it's kind of hard to read here because the only version that I could find online is one that's kind of shrunken down, but you can kind of make out what it says.
I'm sorry, I'm just gonna get a little bit extra sassy here just for a moment because this is a particular pet peeve of mine. It is a standard that I hold for myself that I am aware I should not hold for anybody else, but it's just a line of thinking that I can't quite get my head into. And that is when you have a craft, especially if that craft is making you money, why would you not continue to expand your skills? Why would you not want to continue to learn? And this little like blurry, weird text here, there's no other solution that he could have worked out to do that, but that's extra work that he didn't want to do. And the fact that he's sitting there with his little screen in the bottom corner there with her frozen on the rest of it, there's no care for his art form. And look, this is my own little rant. I don't like it when people do this. And if it's like a hobby and you're just having fun with it, that's one thing. But this man has been doing this for some time now, and this is the quality that we're getting is kind of questionable at best in my mind.
The guy ordered DoorDash, saw that there was a female name for the delivery driver, and then in quotes, she puts, falls asleep on the couch. So in her mind, she immediately thought this guy was doing it intentionally. Now, is that possible? Yeah, of course it is. Again, I will say for the 20th time, it's weird that he would do that knowing a DoorDash driver's coming. Instead of feeling uncomfortable and reporting it, she saw an opportunity to play the victim online in front of all of her followers and to maybe go viral. Well, she did the latter, but I don't think it happened in the way she was hoping, you know?
Do you hear these words that he's using? They're so definitive. She has a victim complex. She was looking for attention. She was not SA'd. She saw an opportunity to play the victim. It's just this is why I'm getting the impression from him that I'm getting. And again, I don't know if this is the real him or if this is just a character. I hope it's a character for those around him's sake, because this would be insufferable to live with.
And I don't know how many followers she had before this whole thing started, but now she has a little over 200,000. So while it's hard to say how much she's grown since it blew up, we definitely know she had at least some people that she could post her life to on TikTok.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Let's just report on something without thinking it through and without getting any facts and not having any curiosity either. I'm sorry, my nuggets. Look, I'm sassy. I'm a little, my feathers are ruffled. Okay. Now, I timed this. It took me 53 seconds to find this information. It took me about a minute more to put it into a nice little graphic so you can see both sides. And granted, while I will acknowledge that not everybody is necessarily as fluent in tech as I might be, even if you want to times that by 5, this is not difficult to find. So he's kind of making it sound like she had a small-ish following. She was already at over 100,000 followers before this incident, and it looks like she roughly doubled her subscriber count. So this definitely got her a lot more followers, but she was already a sizable channel before it. But, you know, don't bother to enhance yourself in any way. Just, you know, sit there in the purest form and just blather on about this stuff. And in reality, my nuggets, when you look at what he's doing and the quality that he's producing, which if he's happy with that, great. But how is this any different to Amber and what they all do? It's the same criticism I bring to Amber. After so long, why have you not bothered to enhance your editing skills? And if anything, by the way, Amber actually went backwards, but this man is exactly the same as that. And he wants to sit here on his high horse judging people and judging Amber too and thinking that he's better. It's just, the levels of irony are insane.
But yeah, as of right now, she either still has not figured out that the posting of the video was the problem, or she's just refusing to see this in any other light than she was a victim. And she's still claiming SA.
I'm sorry, who's refusing to see it in any other light?
So if anything happens, I'll keep you posted. Like I said, that last video, this one right here where she mentioned the response from DoorDash, was posted today, just a few hours ago. Actually, by the time this video is released, it will have been yesterday. It was October 26th. So this is still kind of unfolding as we speak. I would love to know what the guy thinks about all this and what he's gonna do, because a lot of people are like, hey, he should probably sue you. Oddly enough, this one, I think she started modding her comments a little bit, because a lot of these are really positive towards her and telling her, don't worry about it. People are just hating on you because you're a woman, stuff like that. So I think she is kind of curating the comments at this point, because
I am surprised she's even keeping an existence on social media at that point. I imagine that for mental health, that would be brutal.
Overwhelmingly people are not on her side. And people are saying that he should sue. So yeah, it's a mess. So this is just another example of someone who is far more concerned with being a victim and being right than using common sense and taking accountability. So we'll see what happens. I appreciate you guys so much. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.
Do I even need to repeat those words back for this situation for this man? I don't think I do. I don't. Okay, so that is the end of the first video. Now, what then happened is he got a lot of backlash for this video, and I think it's evident why. He deleted the video and then put up the next video. So what I want you to do is get a firm idea in your mind about the kind of tone that he was taking towards this girl, the kind of tone in general, actually, and compare it to what we're about to listen to.
Okay, so I made a video talking about the DoorDash girl situation. And I'm not going to talk about the details in this video. If you don't know what's going on with the DoorDash girl, I'll post a short in the description that goes over the absolute basics of the story. And I privated that video because the situation is a lot more complicated and nuanced than I gave it credit for. I was too harsh on the DoorDash girl, but the situation is nuanced.
I think a full 180 is about the amount of degrees that this man promptly turned himself around. So now all of a sudden it's nuanced. Now all of a sudden he was too harsh with her. And this is why I'm like, I just can't gauge his sincerity. And this was a problem that I had in the Rachel video as well. And it's why I feel like this is a very disingenuous man. I think he's willing to say whatever he thinks is going to be the most popular, or the most popular with the people that he cares about, i.e. Rachel, right? And it's just, I don't like it. You know, if he made a mistake and he stood up and he said, yeah, I clucked up on that one, I fully didn't understand, I was ignorant, and I'm not going to do that again because that was not a good feeling, fine. But that's not what happens. He continues to kind of swing about in the next video, but in this one, he's very different. So bear in mind, I'm going to cut out all of the case stuff. I'm mostly just interested in how he turns himself around. But like I said, these videos are on his channel still, if you want to go watch them.
Mainly because there's so much misinformation being spread everywhere. And before we get started, I want to point something out that I think the dude is a shitbag, for sure. He's a total asshole for putting himself in that position when he knows a DoorDash driver is coming. And I said that in my video. I said he should be reported, but maybe I didn't emphasize it enough.
You did, but you didn't say it in that way or with that tone. So now all of a sudden we're being a lot more apologetic and softer regarding the girl and a lot harsher regarding the man. Please keep that in mind. It's going to be important for the next video.
Like, he was in the wrong, for sure, because that's just a messed up thing to do. Okay, so there are a lot of people on one side of this that are claiming that she opened the door and walked into his house, and that apparently there's some mysterious Ring camera footage that shows her doing that, but nobody has seen it. Nobody seems to be able to provide it. So I don't think it exists.
Or it's called evidence and it's been seized. Just putting that out there as a possibility. Now, this is just a series of cuts of things that he went through in his video, super quick. We're not going to go into great detail about it, but it's just him basically taking into account more perspectives, and I thought that was interesting to at least leave in.
They say this is a screenshot from that deleted video and the door is cracked, but this is very clearly doctored. And then I saw some people say that the guy on the couch has a record. It may not be that simple. So then this stuff starts going around.
So it turns out that Casey Speaks was wrong.
I probably should have watched this before I made that video because that was good advice.
This is now a formal cease and desist.
I'm just showing you all this to show you that there is so much information on both sides. You have people on TikTok saying he has a criminal record. And then you have people saying, hey, that guy made it up. And then you have people saying that she actually has a video where she admitted to opening the door. But the only screenshot anybody can provide has clearly been doctored.
It's almost like when dealing with a crime case, an active investigation, it's wise to do thorough research before getting on the internet and condemning somebody. Yeah? Even if, and it kind of turns out to be this way, even if it turns out that you were technically right in your first video, it doesn't mean it should have been delivered like that.
It's hard to know what's real and what's not when you're just looking at comments and TikToks and things like that. And that's all any of us are doing. All of us are using social media to figure out what's going on in these situations.
Oh, epic deflection there. So if you watched my Rachel video on the apologies, I know this isn't an apology, but he did deflect there. He's like, I know that I was bad for my video, but you can't say I'm the only bad one because everybody's doing it. So if you're going to hate me, you need to hate everybody, as though that's kind of an argument to be had. It's an interesting mindset, and it speaks a lot to how he processes things in his world.
And for whatever reason, this video is all over the internet, but it keeps getting taken down for her. And I will admit that's weird. And this video is basically trying to prove that she didn't walk in the house, which I never thought that she did, because again, we never saw any evidence that she opened the door or that she walked in or anything like that. I just want to show you this because this is the video. So I will reiterate, the dude is a shitbag, is a total piece of shit for passing out on his couch with no pants on, knowing a DoorDash driver is coming.
Do you see how soft he's being to the girl now? How understanding and how supportive he's almost being of her now? And how aggressively he's labeling this guy now? Because as I've already gone through, there could be a range of situations as to why this man was in the position that he was. There's a lot that you could think of, right? I just thought of another one. What if it was a prank? I don't know. There's so many things. He swung from one side hard to the other, and he's still not considering different perspectives, which highlights to me that, like he's been saying about her in the previous video, he has no idea what he's done wrong. He does not get this. He doesn't understand why people are upset.
So I want to make it clear that I am not on this guy's side. And I would concede that that could be considered indecent exposure or maybe sexual harassment. But to me, calling this sexual assault minimizes victims of actual sexual assault.
So hear what he says there. This is the talking out of the sides of his mouth. I could concede that this would be SA, but at the same time, calling this SA minimizes actual victims of SA, which he can't say that either. But see, he's arguing both sides there. He's been stung. He's lost a lot of subscribers. He doesn't like how that feels. And now he's trying to say what he thinks everybody wants to hear, which is still incorrect. It's still an incorrect take. But he just can't help, like exactly in the Rachel video, he can't help also saying his truth, right? It seems to be how he works, and it's just what makes me side-eye him a lot. This is not somebody that I would ever want to invite into my personal life because he seems highly untrustworthy and very disingenuous.
And I'm not saying it wasn't messed up, and I'm not saying that it wasn't traumatic. And in my opinion, I would say that it rises to the level of sexual harassment or indecent exposure.
Also, now he is saying, in his estimation, she was sexually harassed, which kind of indicates to me that he has a very big divide between harassment and assault. That's very interesting to me because, once again, as an alone female, those two things start to blur together very quickly. It is a very scary situation when you find yourself in that moment. And yes, it's objectively worse if something actually happens, but you still get rattled to all Cluck experiencing that kind of thing. And it's just, he hasn't learned my nuggets.
And the bottom line is that she didn't get fired because she was sexually harassed. She didn't get fired for seeing the guy naked in his house. She got fired when she posted it. And that was really the point of my video, but I admit that I was kind of an asshole. I spent too much time talking about her being delusional and a perpetual victim when I don't really know anything about her other than this incident. But
yeah, but you really confidently labeled her with all of those things while knowing that you didn't know her. You got a bee in your bonnet, and for some reason you wanted to take these silly little girls, quote unquote silly little girls, down a peg. That's pretty much what was going on. And I think that was an apology. I'm pretty sure. I think that this was his attempt at an apology.
At the end of the day, she filmed a guy, even if he's a shithead, she filmed him in his home, nude, and posted it to the internet. And so, again, I say what he did was wrong. What she did was wrong, too.
It is literally this cyclic back and forth, back and forth. She was horrible for doing this and a victim and ridiculous for saying she was SA'd. Oh, no, he was a cloaker and he shouldn't have been doing that. And, oh, no, but she recorded it. It's just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's because he doesn't have faith in what he's saying at the moment. And he still wants to somehow remain true to himself while also placating the masses.
Because she was probably kind of like, what the hell just happened? And then all of a sudden, all of TikTok is fighting over what is going on in her life. So yeah, this whole thing is just way more complicated than I had thought originally.
I think that was him making an attempt at looking at an alternate perspective. I like that. That's a little bit of growth, my nuggets. Good job, Hecticana.
And mainly because there is so much misinformation and people jumping to conclusions, including me. And it seems like that's what all anybody's doing in this situation. And people are comparing this to the dress from several years ago where people couldn't agree on what color it was. But I don't think that's quite the same. Like, I get that the internet is divided on this, but we're talking about SA and indecent exposure and, the ethics of taking pictures of people in their house while they're sleeping and stuff like that. Like, that's a little bit more serious than what color a dress is, I would think. But
so I found that interesting because essentially almost the only thing that he said I think about in these videos was whether or not comparing a potential SA situation is the same as comparing it to a meme that happened years ago over what color a dress is. That's the thing that he wants to take a maybe stance on, I think. Everything else has been definitive language. Like, this is, she was. But this is the thing where he's like, oh no, I'm going to step back and maybe think about this a moment. Just, at least an attempt was made, I suppose.
yeah, I don't know that there's any way to talk about this without pissing somebody off. And that's why I should have just left it alone. I should have taken this lady's advice and just not jumped in. I should have just ignored it. So anyway, I appreciate you guys, and maybe I'll see some of you next time, and maybe I won't, but I appreciate you anyway. Take care.
So, yeah, I agree with that. I think he should have left this alone. I think he was way out of his depth with this kind of video. I think it was poorly researched. I think it was poorly delivered. And I think he got stung and he really felt it. And by the way, still feeling it to this day. This with the Rachel stuff combined probably was really poor timing for him. But absolutely, the mistake of taking something that is seen as acceptable in girl world and not understanding that you couldn't possibly do that in the real world is confounding to me. I don't know how he didn't make that link. I don't know if it's just that he got too big for his britches and started getting overconfident and is like, oh, I can do this, you know, I can expand out from girl world and still take my style. I don't know what it was. Maybe also while this was happening, all of the Discord stuff was happening, so they were gassing each other up behind the scenes. It's just, it was a pressure cooker waiting to go off, and he's done some damage. And again, just like Rachel, I don't think this is irredeemable. I think the internet forgets relatively quickly, and he could continue to move on. If you did watch my summation video on the Discord stuff where I went over all 4 of the people involved, you will know that I actually highlighted this in the description of this last video that we're going to look at. And so far, it is the last video that he's uploaded in quite some time. He actually put goodbye in the description. And we're going to go through parts of this video. Most of it is actually the way that he should have dealt with this in the first place, which is bringing facts, reading out screenshots. It is better researched than either of the other videos. And if he had have done the first one like this, I think it would have been received just fine and nothing would have gone wrong. So because most of it is just facts around the case and we're not focusing on the case, if you're interested, you can go watch his video on his channel. But let's just analyze Hecticana himself, because the timing of this video is now well after all of the fallout from his first video and well after all of the fallout from the Discord stuff. So Sir is feeling a little bit wounded.
Well, hello there. There's been an update in the DoorDash girl situation.
Very different tones straight off the bat. Very different. We don't have that high-pitched, monotone kind of almost yelling but not quite yelling to get everybody's attention. It's much more subdued. We're much more perhaps humbled. I don't know. What I will ask you to remember is, remember the first video was all about belittling this girl and having sympathy for the guy. Then the second video was very harsh on the guy, calling him names, and then very sympathetic towards the girl. And now this video is going to bring something different again.
Now, I have not had a drink since before DoorDash was a thing. But if DoorDash had existed back when I was in my heyday and I was drinking and things like that, I can guarantee you I would have had several instances where I woke up with cold food on my front porch and no idea how it got there. A lot of us have had similar situations to that.
I'm not putting any judgment out there, my nuggets, but I'm just going to say I do not at all relate to this. This has never happened to me. It never will happen to me. But I'm a boring mother clucker. I don't imbibe any substance at all. But so we have some clarification that there was some alcohol involved, and this is, I don't know, the excuse for the whole situation.
It's not right. I'm not advocating that people sleep on their couch naked with their door open, but it was an accident. It was a series of unfortunate events. And right here it says, due to lack of intent. And assault requires intent.
And there is a world where I could kind of see that happening if you've had way too much to drink, and then you've like drunk dialed DoorDash on your way home or something, and have, by the time you get to your front door, completely forgotten it. You've stumbled in, you've started to undress because clothes are uncomfortable and that's annoying, and then you kind of pass out and you haven't realized that you've ordered DoorDash, and you haven't realized that you have taken your pants off, and you haven't realized that you've left your door open. I could see a world where that scenario is playing out. So, although he does not specify this here, legally, assault requires intent. That is in order to gain a conviction. What that's not specifying is how, based on her own perspectives, her own filters, her own experiences throughout life, how that's going to affect her. Just because somebody cannot be legally convicted does not mean that there was not necessarily a victim on both sides. Does that make sense? So he could have inadvertently affected her. I don't know if that's the case, but he could have inadvertently created some sort of PTSD relapse or whatever based on past experiences. But they've clearly determined that this was genuinely an accident, and, you know, that's what the police have found. But yeah, but that's getting a little bit more into the case, which I'm not doing today, my nuggets. So let's continue with Hecticana.
If a guy is at a pool party, and as he's getting out of the pool, his pants slide down on accident, is everybody there an assault victim? No, of course not. There has to be intent. And the only way you can say that he did it intentionally is just to make that up. There's no evidence that he did it intentionally. And the only reason to make that up about the guy is because you want to.
I still think this is coming off as quite privileged from a white male perspective, because to compare the situation with a girl who is alone delivering DoorDash, witnessing an open door to a man who is exposed, is not on the same level as being in a group of people and somebody accidentally gets pantsed because, I don't know, water volume and gravity. It's really not the same situation, because in his analogy, the pool party is a group of people. So the group of people have an automatic sense of security, and it's a completely different situation where everybody's having fun and everybody theoretically is consenting to the fun, as opposed to that young girl alone on the doorstep at night. It's still very tone deaf, and clearly he's not ever stopped to consider what it's like to be a woman moving around in the world, where it is ingrained from an incredibly young age to be geared towards protecting yourself at all times. It's programmed into us. Any men listening, it is so programmed, even from like our very first dates and things like that. It's like you need to do everything to protect yourself, because men at any time, which, by the way, I don't believe my nuggets, men at any time can just spring up and attack you. And that is the general teaching that goes on, at least in Australia, at least I think in Western countries. And I absolutely, for the record, my nuggets, do not think that all men are out to get women at every turn. I don't believe that. I think there are cloacas in every walk of life, in every nationality, and every situation, but they are a minority, not the majority, and definitely do not represent men everywhere.
But notice again that Olivia did not mention being SA'd in the original report because she knew she wasn't. That wasn't what this was about.
Okay, so we're back to definitive language, and we're back to slamming the girl again. So we've swung around almost all the way back to the beginning again, and this is now the narrative. It's almost like he's really tried in the last video, made a small attempt to consider alternate perspectives. But it's like he can't consider alternate perspectives for both parties. Like in this situation, it is possible that it was an accident on the guy's behalf and she was affected. Or it wasn't an accident on his behalf and it was intentional and she wasn't affected. There's so many scenarios of multiple things that can be moving at once, but I don't think he can get his head there to consider multiple perspectives from multiple parties. That's how I'm reading it. What do you think, my nuggets?
Or is it possible that she just thought that was a great way to maybe get people to be on her side and to get some sympathy? And it worked because a lot of people just went with it. Just said, you got essayed? I believe you no matter what. Common sense, evidence, the guy's life be damned. The investigation by the police department determined that no SA occurred.
From a legal stance, I will say that. Legally, this man cannot be charged in what the police have discovered. But as I've said, things that can be legally done and things that can happen in real life can be two very, very different things. Also, if you'll notice, he's back to his high-pitched monotone screeching again. So I think he's feeling emboldened again. I think this is his confident voice. At least that's how it's reading. And regarding the everybody believing her, I really think that goes back to what I was saying earlier in the video. Very long video now, my nuggets, but if you're still here, awesome. Can you comment never ending nugget below if you're still here listening to me? But regarding the believing her, I think it goes back to that we would rather believe them and be wrong than to not believe them and be wrong. It's just, it's the right thing to do. And I hate that there are women out there, and not just women, but like all manner of people that use the law against someone and knowingly lie about something that someone's done. I feel very, very passionate about this. And I think it's far too easy for women to take advantage of this situation because it ruins it for those who have actually gone through it. And now we're sitting here going, well, are you telling the truth or aren't you? And that's horrible. We shouldn't have to wonder if we should believe someone when they're saying, this has happened to me and I am affected by this and I am hurting and very disturbed because of this. So yeah, I think people believe her because she's the one that's claiming SA, right? If it were if the genders were reversed on this and it was a man claiming SA, I would believe him too. Like I say, egalitarian, my nuggets. But it's important to believe people when they come forward with this stuff rather than not believe them and risk such damage behind that message.
So yeah, it's pretty clear if you use your brain that her intention was to put this guy on blast on TikTok, just upload and possibly ruin his life and get some views. There was never any intention to call the police and report being SA'd, because if she had intended to do that, she would have done that. They didn't find out about the SA claims until they did their investigation. But then she heard on TikTok somebody say, you know what, you're a victim. And she said, yeah, I am a victim. And she labeled him a predator because of it. And a lot of people are happy to just run with it.
And this might be true, and it's really looking like that might be the case at this point. But to turn that back on Hecticana, well, he was willing to just, without the facts, stand up and call this girl an attention-seeking victim who is using words that she shouldn't be using to ruin a guy's life. He was so willing to sit there and confidently say those definitive words about this girl. It's the same thing. He doesn't get it.
But the biggest problem with all this is if you are not 100% on her side and agree with everything she says, then they come after you. In my video, I said, you know, calling this assault was a bit of a stretch. And people started wishing SA on my family and my children.
Okay, well, firstly, you didn't just say SA was a bit of a stretch. You said it very smugly, you said it very haughtily, very confidently, and you basically said that she was making things up. And if this girl did experience trauma from this, I hope she didn't see this. Secondly, it is absolutely not okay to go after somebody's family. Now, I have been unable to verify this, so this is unverified. Because the posts and videos were deleted regarding this, I can't see whether people were just saying, how would you feel if this happened to your daughters? Or if they were saying, I am going to do this to your daughters. I don't know what the scenario was, but clearly it was enough for him to feel rattled and enough for him to say goodbye on this video. And I don't hold any criticism for him if he stepped away to protect his family and if he felt like that's what he needed to do. I think that that is absolutely the right call if that's how he felt. But he is very much misrepresenting what he did in that video. And I think the response, it certainly created a small emotional response within me of anger. And I could see how people would want to protect themselves, their own experiences, or protect those that they love who have gone through something of people not believing them. I could see how that would create an emotional response to lash out and say something very harmful in a comment.
These same people who are, for whatever reason, convinced that they have the moral high ground, that they are coming from a place of morality, instead of being the vile, depraved pieces of shit they are. And not only them, but all of these people who are happy to label this guy a predator with no evidence and just because they want to. And then they still act like they are morally superior. So her court date is December 4th, and with as much evidence as she provided, I think she's fucked.
And there's no excuse if that was a direct threat at his family. Absolutely not. One thing I will say to those people who did feel like that, though, and maybe did leave comments like, oh, what if this had happened to your daughters and how would you feel and things like that. I will say that I get that you're trying to educate him, right? You're trying to get him to see a different perspective. You're trying to open his mind to a different potential. Regardless of the outcome of this particular case, you're trying to make him think. But I will say that using that kind of tact with people rarely works. It just comes off as an attack and it doesn't make them think, it makes them shut down more. So I would encourage anybody who feels like this or wants to write something like that to somebody, ask them questions, make them think, not making it personal, but really challenging where they're coming from and what would it look like if they were wrong? What would be the scenarios? What would be the feeling? What would be the outcome if they were wrong? Not saying that they are wrong, but just what if they were? That's my take on that kind of thing. It's just dramatic or traumatic things generally don't work for the human brain. The association is not made. And for any of you who live in countries where like cigarette packets have to have warnings on them, in Australia, for example, I can speak very confidently. The government requires them to have these warnings on them, and they always have these awful pictures of like lungs or like fetuses or just horrible, horrible imagery that makes you recoil. And the reason they do that, the reason why the cigarette companies who want to make all the money do that and are okay with that is because statistically they know that this has been proven to be the least effective method. So if they're aiming for people to buy cigarettes, they're going to put the warning on there that they feel is the least effective to deter people from buying their product, and that's what they do. It's just because it's too much and our brain rejects it, basically. It doesn't sit, or it sparks somebody to go, oh no, that won't happen to me, that kind of thing. So I don't know, it's worth noting. Anyway, so one of my nuggets, thank you so much, pointed out to me that Hecticana has actually been leaving comments on this video. And I found this screenshot. This is one of his viewers, and I quote, "The fact that you didn't start the video with hello my friends just made me sad. I miss your videos a lot." Hecticana replied, "I appreciate that. I think I'm done with Girl World. I've got a lot of things I'd like to talk about, but I'm not sure really what to focus on. But one of these days, I'll likely return in some form or another. If there's something specific you'd like to hear my take on, let me know. Okay, so this is interesting to me, and this is the beyond proof to my argument that this man does not understand what he's done wrong, because this response doesn't make sense. What's happened is this man was in Girl World, doing the Girl World thing, making fun of Amber, making fun of morbidly obese people, and then he took that viewership and did the same thing to a crime case. It backfired, and now he's associated that backfiring with Girl World. But it wasn't Girl World that was the problem. He stepped out of Girl World and went into crime. So he has not made the association that what I was doing in Girl World was at least accepted, and it wasn't accepted in the true crime world. So would the logical move not be just to go back to Girl World? But I think the connection he's made is my viewers saw the true crime thing and overreacted because Girl World viewers are overdramatic and they caused problems for me. So I'm going to go to a different part of the internet, not at all realizing that it doesn't matter. It's not the sub-communities in YouTube, it's YouTube and his take on how he delivered this. It is his actions, not his viewership, not the topic, but the way he delivered it. And he has no clucking idea. And that's why I say this whole video is just built on utter irony, because his whole point about this girl was that she didn't understand what she'd done wrong. Well, Hecticana, you don't know what you've done wrong. You don't get it. So let me know if you would like to see more videos of his reacted to. At the moment, as it stands, unless something else crops up, I think I'm pretty done with Hecticana. I didn't like covering him. I will say that. I really, it's a strange sensation to me, because while I don't like Amber either, but it's like she's interesting because of the layered history that she's had, because of the manipulation that goes over the top. I don't know. It is something about it that is at least psychologically interesting to me. But this man, you know, I'm trying to think from other perspectives with him as well, and I'm struggling to see past misogyny, and I really hate saying those words. I can't emphasize how much. I think he had some good points, and I kind of hope that maybe his overreaction to this was at the hands of having seen a man be wronged because of things like this, and maybe I would understand that a bit more. But maybe it would have been good to hear a little bit more personalization if that had have been the case. Like, I've seen this happen, that kind of thing, because in the absence of any context, it's really coming off misogynistic. Whether, you know, she's guilty or not is not the point in this particular part that I'm discussing. So I'm not super happy with this individual, in case that wasn't clear. He is the antithesis of everything that I attempt to bring, and that's not fair for me to put any of my standards on him, because he's not me. We have different experiences, but hopefully what happens is he spends a little bit of time away from the internet, reflects on what has happened, and maybe sees the other sides of this, because this man needs some growth to happen. And you're never too old, and it's never too late. I'm just going to say that, my nuggets. But if you're still here listening to me, thank you so much. I know this was a very long video. I also know that you really like long videos, so that's okay. I am going to be, unless something really groundbreaking happens in breaking news, the next video I'm going to do is the final part to my members only series that I'm doing at the moment. And I'll be looking, I have some ideas of what to do next in that department, but I'm open to suggestion, my nuggets. Are there little things that you'd like to see me discuss in the members only space that cannot be discussed in the free space? And an extra big thank you as a segue, speaking of my cluckers, thank you so much for all of your support over on YouTube membership and Patreon. I so deeply appreciate each and every one of you. And If you would also like to support the channel, and you can, feel free to head on over. There's already some content there waiting for you. So, and much more to come. But that's all the clucks I have left to give. Stay golden, my little nuggets, and I'll catch you next time.
Hey, 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 hey! I'm gonna go watch another video. Let's go!